WLBB, Carrollton, News Talk 1330, FM 106.3.
Well, good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome to the WLBB Community Voice Program here on News Talk 1330, FM 106.3. I'm your host, Colin Worthington. You can also visit us on the News Talk 1330 Facebook page this morning, where we are streaming live video, and you can take a peek, see at my guests, two lovely young ladies, to promote an event, an important event, which is coming up September 22nd. That's this Sunday.
That is.
So we picked the perfect time to promote this. The topic, it might be a little unnerving for some people to talk about it. Some of you may say, well, why is that even important in West Georgia? And I believe we'll breach that topic, why it's so important in West Georgia at this time during this program. Human trafficking. The event on Sunday is called Our Children Are Not for Sale. Sex Trafficking Awareness Event. It'll be at the AMP. And here to talk with us about it, sitting to my left, Rev Briggs Smith. She is the Associate Pastor at Carrollton First United Methodist Church. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Kim Jones. She's an active member of the Church of the Carrollton First United Methodist Church. Also does a couple other things here
Just a few.
around the neighborhood. So good morning to both of you, and appreciate you coming out to talk about this.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Hope we do raise some awareness and perhaps pique the interest of some people. We did have a story, I guess, had to deal with some students at About in Kids Piece. And I think that may have made this story touch home for a lot more people and encourage their interest this morning. Just talk to me. Why did this become an important thing for you guys to be part of putting this event together?
Well, that's a great question. Carrollton First United Methodist Church has always been passionate about kids and caring for kids in need in the community. And so once the news came about the crisis of sex trafficking with the Super Bowl coming and everything, our church also became interested in sex trafficking of children in Georgia, but also in our local community. And so our church's natural passion for loving and caring for kids expanded to joining in and raising awareness. And so we feel that the next step is to just raise awareness on the issue that children are being sold, and that it is not just a city thing, it's not just Atlanta, but it affects rural areas like Carroll County.
And you talk about the Super Bowl. I think that was an eye-opener for a lot of people as well, but it's been discussed for many years, even before that. And I was looking up some statistics online. There was even mentioned even back. It happened. There's probably a bigger wave of it, maybe in the mid 2000s in Atlanta, and then it returned in 2018, and it could have had something to do with the Super Bowl, 2018 into this part of the year. Well, let's talk about the event itself then. It again coming up Sunday. It's from 5 o'clock until 6, and it's going to be at the AMP, an outside venue. I know you guys did take cautions and precautions in case the weather's bad, but it's going to be okay on Sunday, I think.
I believe so.
So it's safe to say that we will have that here. Let's talk about the speakers.
Sure. Our main keynote speaker is going to be Leslie Brooke from the nonprofit Georgia Cares, which is kind of like the umbrella organization for the whole state of Georgia. They not only work with local law enforcement, DFACS, and other organizations. They also provide awareness, as well as they do a lot of interviewing of potential traffic victims, children. So they're very close to the source of where the issue is. So she'll be talking about kind of what does trafficking look like across the state, and what are some of the resources, particularly what some of the warning signs are as well. Following Leslie, we will have a facilitated panel discussion moderated by Dr. Bruce Lyon. And
he moderates everything, doesn't he?
Yes, he's a professional.
He's a church member too.
He's a church member too. So we're pulling on our resources. But we will have Lynn Pryor, who is a case manager for the Carroll County Department of Family and Children's Services. We've got Captain Jeff Richards from the Sheriff's Department, Lou from Kids Piece in Bowden, and Investigator Mary Browning from the Carrollton Police Department, and then Leslie Brooke from Georgia Cares will also be on the panel.
So it'll be about an hour that you
Yes.
encourage people to participate. When they show up to this event and attend it, what do you hope they leave with? What do you hope to accomplish?
We hope that they will become more aware of the crisis of child sex trafficking, and that it does affect us as a community, and kind of break down that myth that it only happens in Atlanta and only in cities, but it can happen here, and it is happening. And then empowering people in the community to take action by providing resources of ways to get involved. And so we'll have information tables after the service where people can get connected, talk to the law enforcement, and then Carroll County Child Advocacy Center, because often kids who are trafficked have been sexually abused as children, so there's a connection there. And then Kids Peace, because they deal a lot with the trauma, the aftermath, how they heal. And so Lou, we put him on the panel to talk about the grooming and the effect that it has on the kids, because I think that also is important to raising awareness.
Because what we're trying to do, we'll also have Mentoring Village there, as well as the Child Advocacy Center and Kids Peace and Georgia Cares, but we'll have CASA and Care Portal, and as she mentioned, the Child Advocacy Center, because what we want to do is be able to, because you don't want people to come to this event and go, oh my gosh, that's a horrible thing, and then just walk away. What we want them to do is find a way that they can become part of the prevention. I mean, that's what this whole story is going to be about, is how can we prevent this, and how people can prevent it is by getting involved much early in a child's life. So if they're mentoring a child and they hear something, or mainly just provide encouragement. I mean, I think what most people will be really surprised at is how, and this affects all socioeconomic incomes. It's not like a low income kind of issue. And I think that's one of the myths that that the speakers will talk about, is that there are all different socioeconomic backgrounds that people can seize on, and they start recruiting and grooming these children. And so the earlier we can intervene in these children's lives, whether it's providing resources or being a mentor or being an advocate for them in the court system, we can reduce the numbers. I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is create less, not more.
There was a headline on one of my news sites this morning. Actually, it could have been yesterday, but an airline stewardess is being applauded for recognizing a situation on an airplane. I think communicated with a young girl who was there with an older man, and she just was cautious about it, left a note in the bathroom, and they communicated that way, and apparently she was able to communicate to her. At this event, are we going to learn how to recognize that, and even teaching somebody, or how do you encourage somebody to respond if you're only 52% sure something's going on?
Right. We definitely going to be talking about awareness, and I call it kind of your spidey senses. There's just certain things that we'll talk about at this event that either you see visually or you hear it and you think, you know what, that just doesn't look right to me. There's just something there that doesn't look right or doesn't sound right. And so several, like our local law enforcement as well as Georgia Cares, we obviously could call 911 here, but if you don't feel comfortable doing that, Georgia Cares maintains a 24-hour hotline that people can call, and they will immediately deploy the appropriate people to go and check. All the folks will tell you they would much rather go out and it be nothing than us to miss a case, because repeatedly, I know that just the interviews that I've seen, repeatedly the situation is somebody knew, somebody heard something. I tried to get their attention, and nobody responded. And so we just don't want that to happen for our children.
And applauding the stewardess, but should mention the convenience store 6 months ago, when a similar situation reportedly, allegedly happened here in our area. Convenience store workers thought that something just wasn't right, and they called police.
Well, and
led to that arrest.
Right, and actually, Michelle Morgan had emailed me earlier this week and said that when the Super Bowl came in, that all of their stores actually have trained all of their employees to be alerted. So I think that's what we want us to, is to encourage local businesses to get in touch with the Child Advocacy Center to do the Darkness to Light training. It's basically be free to little to no cost, just so all of us can be aware. I think that's a very simple, non-threatening kind of thing to do initially. It's just to become aware and just learn what those signs are.
And we focus on convenience store workers. They're typically off the highway. In route of travel. It's not like I guess you wouldn't expect business. I'm sure you want them to participate in this event, but I guess the convenience stores would be a bigger focus. Who else would you encourage to attend this event? Who are you targeting?
Everyone. The more people that know, the greater the impact. So people like store owners, yes, nurses, doctors, parents, youth, because often these kids are in the school system. And so the more youth that are informed, they can recognize the signs and the grooming. Maybe your friend is more pulled back. Maybe they're talking to a random guy on the internet, and then they leave and meet this person. So everyone becoming involved, all the people that touch these kids' lives, the doctor, the teacher, the pastor, grandparents, to become aware and to know those signs. Because often it's not, you're right, it's not socioeconomic, but it's recognizing the weakness in the child and feeding off of that. Like maybe the kid is vulnerable and doesn't fit in, but maybe from a nice home where the parents are happy and it's a loving home, but the kid has something missing, and the trafficker finds that and grooms that, and then it becomes, so there's a process. And so we're hoping to raise awareness to everyone in the community that works with kids or interacts with kids.
And the trafficker, I mean, one of the reasons their motivation for doing this, I mean, it's financial. We're seeing that most of the time. Yes,
because you can reuse the child.
It's hard to say that. It's hard to hear that even. But yeah, that's. We are promoting this event that's coming up on Sunday. It's called Our Children Are Not for Sale. It is a sex trafficking awareness event. You're encouraged to become aware, learn the warning signs, and help protect our children. It is Sunday, September the 22nd, from 5 o'clock until 6 o'clock. It'll be at the AMP in downtown Carrollton. Anticipated speakers representing Georgia Cares, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, Carrollton Police Department, Carroll County Department of Family and Children Services, Carroll County Child Advocacy Center, and Kids Peace. The event is presented by Carrollton First United Methodist Church. And on the program this morning, Rev Briggs Smith. She's an associate pastor at Carrollton First United Methodist Church. Kim Jones, an active member of the church as well, and kind enough to talk about the event with us on this morning's program. And again, if you're watching us on Facebook Live, you can post a comment or a question. We'll take a peek at those during the break. Perhaps some questions or suggestions or comments that I didn't touch on or they haven't touched on yet for this program. So feel free to post on our website, the News Talk 1330 Facebook page. 8:42 right now. We'll take our first break, come back and continue with our program. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy.
A well-rounded education includes much more than just academics. At Oak Mountain Academy, we encourage our students to find their niche in any of our 42 co-curricular opportunities. Over the past 5 years, we have brought home 5 state and 20 regional athletic titles. Our one-act play and literary teams continuously compete at the region and state level, and our academic teams bring home first place more than not. We are warriors creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org. or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
About 8:44. Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program, News Talk 1330, FM 106.3. This morning, check us out on the News Talk 1330 Facebook page. Video streaming live there. I'm your host, Colin Worthington. Our guests on this Friday are promoting an event that's coming up this Sunday at the AMP here in Carrollton, a sex trafficking awareness event. It's titled Not for Sale. Our Children Are Not for Sale. Again, Sunday at 5, and about an hour-long event is what we expect. Thank you to those tuning in, watching us on the Facebook Live page. Stephanie says, thanks for shining a light on this story. We appreciate her input, and a couple other people have liked, just liked the post, the video post. Well, where do we go now, guys? What else can we talk about? I don't know, what kind of stats do we have? Do you have those available? I printed out a few myself, but I guess to drive it home a little bit more about how big an issue this is statewide and potentially locally.
Well, I think one thing, that I guess as I've learned about this through Briggs and some other situations has been just kind of more how common it is and how we just don't really want to admit that. 91% of the victims are enrolled in a local school system. And so these are children that are going to school with our children. They're playing baseball with our kids. They're involved in extracurricular with our children. And so I think to Briggs' point a while ago is that if you come across children in any shape or form, which I think all of us do, we need to be aware of what's going on. And I will tell you this, the one thing, I'm also serve on the DFACS board, and one of the things that I have learned from that situation has been the danger in our community is not that someone's going to, quote, come down from Atlanta and snatch up our children and drag them back to Atlanta, which, I mean, that does happen on occasion. Our biggest issue are parents trafficking their own children. Yes. And that was very sobering for me, and so I've really kind of wrestled with that, and part of it is an economic situation. I cannot imagine how desperate you would have to become to think you needed to traffic your own children to be able to survive, and so that's why we're going to talk about people getting involved in some of these nonprofits to maybe help to bring some of those resources to families, maybe helping pay a power bill, helping pay a utility bill or whatever, but then also the whole issue of those parents were trafficked as children themselves, and so we've got to step in. We've got to break the proverbial, repeat offense, and so. We've got a lot of families currently living in hotels. There's 12 hotels in and around our community that currently have turned into pseudo housing for these families, and so I think. Carroll County and Carrollton is an amazing place, a very giving place, but there's also some multiple opportunities that we have to make it better for all of our children, and they're all of ours. It's not just the ones that reside under our roof. They're all of our children.
As we mentioned, Atlanta is rated one of the cities with the highest number of child trafficking cases, and again, that's it's less than an hour for most of us in Carroll County. That area, so we should hear more about it. Yeah, and you mentioned the parents selling their children too. I mean, and those stories, I remember hearing those stories for years, and I guess I just didn't really associate it with what is the bigger stories. I mean, what we hear more about. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's terrible. 83% of the victims are U.S. citizens.
Yes.
How about the ages of the victims? Are we seeing more commonly?
11 to 14 years old, and. So they're children. They should be riding bikes. They should be playing with their friends. And one of the most shocking things to me is that 50% are boys, and often it's before puberty, and they, correct me if I'm wrong, but they make more money on the younger boys. And so boys as well as girls. And that's a misconception, is that it only happens to girls, and boys are less likely to report it. And so that's something that I think the community needs to recognize, is not to just look for struggling girls, but look for struggling boys as well.
Do we have groups that that talk to young kids about this? Are we comfortable yet to talk to an 11-year-old kid and say, hey, watch out for this?
I do think it's happening. I mean, I know we do have some nonprofits who are going to schools, and this is also part of the health curriculum. But I think it's one of those things. I mean, we all, children and adults, are hit with multiple messages every day. So I think this is one of those things. As tough as it is, as parents, we've got to be proactive, or as grandparents, or aunts, or uncles, or teachers, or mentors, or whatever. We've got to broach the subject, and because I think these are professionals. They know how to say the right things, do the right things to groom these children, and so I think if we've constantly kind of have our guard up to be looking at this. I mean, this is as harsh it is, it's a business transaction. I mean, and obviously if there weren't buyers, there wouldn't be sellers, and so we've also got to kind of be aware of who's buying these children, who is involved in that, and so I know we've had some local cases of children. I mean, adults who are involved in children's lives, and that's where sometimes these folks are attracted to, or some of these, whether it be athletic teams or whether it be whatever. And so I think as parents, you've got to, really, really be careful of who your children are interfacing with.
Yeah, and we've always said don't talk to strangers. I mean, that mantra's been read, since the 50s and 60s, and obviously before that too. But and that just carries on. I mean, with this, without getting, of course, this is a very serious issue. How does the church feel about this responsibility? And this is a pretty big deal that you guys are, trying to bring attention to this and taking responsibility for this, local initiative.
That's a great question. We are excited about this event. As a church, we believe in the call to love, to share love, to show mercy, and to do justice. And so this event is emphasizing justice and speaking out. And in Carroll County, churches are very important and very active in the community. And so we felt that if we are not talking about it, who else is going to talk about it? So if a church is willing to step up and talk about something uncomfortable, and we are also partnering with all of these different organizations to say that, hey, the church cares too, and the church is willing to step up and partner together, because often the church turns a blind eye and doesn't like to talk about uncomfortable things, talking about a universal church, not just our church, because it's uncomfortable and it's scary and it's hard to talk about evil in the world. But if, like, our Christian call as Christians is to say this is not right, these are God's children, we care, and we're going to step up. And this is the first start. We don't want it to be just one event, one and done, but a conversation and working with all these different organizations and hopefully empowering other churches to join in and see where that goes. And so we're excited.
That really was where I was going next. It was like, do we see this? You'll do this on Sunday and you're done. You think you educated everybody, this is over, but you plan to carry this flag for a while. How can listeners and people attend on Sunday? Is there anything they can do to get involved to help you guys? I mean, I don't know what kind of public speaker you need, but maybe just to help with the.
Yeah, I think most definitely, if they can attend the event, we'd love to have them there to kind of learn more, because I think the more educated we are, the better we can kind of come up with a plan, I guess. But we do have some folks. I mean, obviously, like CASA. The Child Advocacy Center, Kids. I mean, all these organizations are kind of on the front lines for this issue, and so I think we will have tables set up with representatives from these organizations that people can go up to afterwards and say, "How can I get involved? How can I make a difference?" And so we're really going to encourage people to really, we can write checks all day long. Checks checks obviously are going to help this situation, but we need adults to step up. We need grandparents. We need college students. We need folks to step up and say, I will make a difference through. And, a lot of these things that we're asking people to do not cost a dime. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to mentor a child. You have to take some of your time, and that's the one thing we didn't want to give up. But I think that's what it's called. And I will also do a little thing, too. There's another group we'll have there called Promise 686, and there's a program they have called Care Portal, where we currently have, I think it's 8 local churches. When case managers see needs in the home, it could be everything from the power bill, it could be shoes, most often it's a bed. So many of our children in our community right now are sleeping on the floor, or they're sleeping 4 to a bed. And so the churches get these emails, and then we respond to DFACS and say, we will go take a bed, we will go pay for the power bill or whatever. And so that takes some of the economic pressure off of some of these families. And so there's always churches that can get involved in Care Portal. It's a very simple, easy thing to get involved in. And I think for our church, it's been an eye-opening experience, because most people have not gone to a hotel and taken items to a family that's living 4 children in a hotel room with a single mom. Mm-hmm. And the conditions, quite honestly, in some of these hotels are atrocious. I've personally been in them multiple times, and to drop things off or to work with a particular group, drugs are prevalent, crime is prevalent, and I think our church members have been just shocked that this literally is happening right in our face.
Our children are not for sale. It's a sex trafficking awareness event coming up this Sunday. It'll be held at the AMP here in Carrollton, 5 o'clock until 6 o'clock. A lot of anticipated speakers and a lot of important information, and I hope you were able to listen to this program and get the idea of what this will be all about on Sunday, and maybe change your mind a little bit if you were thinking that this wasn't such a big issue locally or in West Georgia. Perhaps the young ladies were able to change your mind this morning. We're going to take our final break and come back and give you the opportunity one more time to say, hey, this is why you need to come. These are our speakers, and we'll do that after this final break. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy here on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama, because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
At Oak Mountain Academy, our daily schedule includes convocation, prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance. By doing so, we build a family-like community where all students grow and flourish and personal faith is encouraged. Through community service and a historical approach to biblical study, our students are taught the value of the warrior way, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Oak Mountain Academy. We are a family creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
8:56. Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice Program, News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. I'm Colin Worthington, your host on this Friday, as we discuss an event coming up this Sunday at the AMP in Carrollton. Our Children Are Not for Sale, a sex trafficking awareness event. And it was brought to my attention by the young ladies this morning, and I agree with them. I'm really just kind of getting a black cloud talking about it. I mean, it's not comfortable to talk about or even think about, but as you did point out, there is hope.
Yes, there is hope, and this event is light into a darkness. And so we feel that the fact that all of these organizations and local community leaders have come together is really exciting and hopeful. And so we hope that people will come to the event not because they're, dreading it or afraid, but I get to be a part of this hope, and I get to be a part of the change. And we believe that that's exciting, and we hope that it'll empower people to come to the event and to love and care for our children and prevent them from being trafficked or taken advantage of.
Our good friend Emily Cole, she was she had actually set this interview up to talk with you guys, and she unfortunately couldn't make it this morning because I don't know, she has some family thing going on in Germany or something. But we believe she's watching in Germany this morning.
Yeah, we think so. She said she was. So.
Good. So we want to give a big shout out to her, and again appreciate her putting this interview up for this morning. But co-organizers for the event, the big organizer for this event, Carrollton First United Methodist Church, Rev Briggs Smith to my left, Kim Jones to my right. Kim's a member of the church. 1 minute left to go. Again, encourage. How do you encourage people to come be part of this? How do you remind people how important this forum will be?
I think it's just real important. I mean, it'll be at AMP. It's an open venue. The weather's going to be great. It really is just going to take an hour. I think all
Only
of our children are worth an hour investment in our time, and so encourage people to come out. The nice thing I just mentioned briefly, Colin, we've got some signs I hope people have seen around town. We've actually had a really good a lot of comments about this, and people have been very positive. I'm so glad you guys are doing it, and so I'm very proud of our church kind of stepping out. Like you said, it's not a very comfortable topic, but the AMP Sunday 5 to 6, it'll be a great opportunity just to kind of, I think, for the other thing, for people to see that they're not alone in trying to fight this horrible situation in our community.
Should we bring our kids to this event?
I don't know that it's appropriate for young children, quite honestly, but I certainly think it's appropriate for teenagers. Most definitely.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies. I hope you get big attendance on Sunday.
Thank you for letting us come.
Absolutely. And keep us posted. I mean, I'd love to. I mean, I can actually just walk up there and see the attendance and catch a little bit of it. Yeah. Again, Our Children Are Not for Sale, a sex trafficking awareness event Sunday, 5 o'clock until 6 at the AMP in downtown Carrollton. Anticipated speakers representing Georgia Cares, Carroll County Sheriff's Office, Carrollton Police Department, Carroll County Department of Family and Children's Services, DFACS, Carroll County Child Advocacy Center, and Kids Peace. And again, thank you for coming out this morning to talk about it. And thank you for listening at home or in your car this morning to the Community Voice program. You're going to want to tune in next Monday because we're returning to our discussions with local candidates or candidates for local municipal races. Jim Waters, I believe he is the Ward 3 City Councilman. He'll be on our program Monday, so do hope you tune in for the Community Voice Monday at 8:30. News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. Have a great weekend, everybody.